Trudy sitting in for Elias on a lovely July day. We have another one of those days where the humidity is not as much of a bother as it has been recently. We have 23 degrees in Montreal right now. With the humidity, it may feel like 27. There's plenty of sun, little bit of wind, not very much, 20 kilometers an hour. It is another lovely summer day. We are talking now on the Elias Macco Show about the Americans who have been Googling how to come to Canada given recent events in American politics. Some people have decided they would prefer not to stick around for another term of Donald Trump, I guess, if that is what they're predicting is the outcome of the election this fall. So there's been more interest online, people in the U.S. searching for details about moving to Canada. But it's not straightforward. It is kind of complicated, and who knows what the follow-through is going to be. Joining us is Barbara Jo Caruso. She's co-president of the Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association. Barbara, thanks for being with us on the Elias Macco Show.
Happy to be here.
Have you seen, are your members reporting an upswing in interest, inquiries, actual inquiries from Americans looking to come here?
Yeah, for sure. We're seeing an uptick in inquiries. I had one last night as I was tuning in to watch the nomination of Mr. Trump. So it's not as strong, I think, as it was in 2016, perhaps. People have a better sense of what they're in for, and they're prepared to weather the circumstances. But definitely seeing some inquiries.
Any particular group in the U.S. that you're hearing from, or maybe region in the U.S. that your members are hearing from?
I think consistently the demographic is an older demographic. So folks that are professionals that are nearing the end of their professional career, maybe already retired or close to retirement. So that's sort of the consistent profile.
How easy is it for an American retiree to relocate to Canada?
Not very. So, our immigration system is very much focused on a younger demographic, folks that will work in Canada and pay taxes for a much longer period of time. So often the news that we have isn't great when we do these types of consultations. But sometimes people just want to know. They want to explore their options, and they're happy to have consulted with one of our members.
Is it easier if you're rich?
No, not necessarily. There's no sort of track to purchase a visa. There is an investor program in Quebec, but it has recently been reopened with much more stringent requirements, and particular French language skills. So I don't think that that avenue of purchasing your visas is going to be is something that is here in Canada and would be available to Americans.
Are you hearing that people actually want to come here to become Canadians because they're turning their back on their U.S. citizenship, or do they just want to come and plant themselves here for 4 years?
I think it's more the latter, that they want the option of being able to live in Canada in a more tolerant society. So that is usually what's driving it. We don't usually talk too much about citizenship, but interestingly, Canada's first-generation rule for citizenship was recently struck down as unconstitutional, and the government has introduced new legislation which will open up a Canadian citizenship to beyond the first generation if you're born abroad. So I think we will have a lot more Americans inquiring as to whether or not, they have a right to Canadian citizenship through descent, through a parent or a grandparent that might have been born in Canada but subsequently moved to the U.S. So we'll see how that all transpires later in the year as the legislation becomes law and we have more clarity on who might actually qualify.
I know you don't have the details yet, but is that an easy route if they're opening it up and now you can claim a grandparent? Is that fairly straightforward? Here's the birth certificate showing my connection. Let me in.
Well, there will be some sort of substantive connection that the original Canadian would have had to have, and so that's the detail that we're waiting for in the legislation. I think the first draft suggested that the Canadian would have had to have lived in Canada for 3 years. Anyhow, we'll see how that transpires once we have more details. But it could open it up to a lot of Americans that find that they have some connection through descent.
Given the experience the last time around, and by that I mean when Donald Trump ran the first time and did get into the White House, what will the follow-through rate be, do you think? And I know I'm just asking for a ballpark here. You're getting a lot of inquiries, but do people do they actually follow through and make the jump and come here?
Yeah, last time I would say we didn't actually see a lot of American boots land on Canadian soil, so it didn't translate into that. The ones that did follow through seem to have some sort of other connection to Canada. They may have been married to a Canadian citizen, or they may have parents or relatives in Canada. There was some other opportunity, maybe a job opportunity that came up. So there was some other driving connection for the ones that actually did follow through.
So do you think Canadian immigration lawyers will be particularly busy right away now that we're getting a clearer idea of what the presidential race is going to be like, or will the real effect be felt only after the election?
I think there'll be a lot of inquiries between now and the end of the year. But what we tend to see too is that once we give our assessment on immigration, which isn't always straightforward as we've discussed, we usually refer folks to have a consultation with a tax advisor or with a realtor, because there are restrictions in owning property in Canada if you're not a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen, and that often is a bit of a turnoff, and certainly, the tax implications can be significant for individuals that, are especially established individuals that may have a lot of net worth. So those things can be turnoffs. So in the end, I don't really see this being a huge avalanche of actual files that proceed.
Barbara Jo Caruso has been our guest on the Elias Macko Show, co-president of the Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association. Barbara Jo, thanks for your time.
Happy to have helped. Take care. Have a nice weekend.
Have a great weekend. This texter might be relieved to hear Barbara Jo Caruso say that about, probably no avalanche. This texter says, keep Canada great, Yankees stay home. I don't know. People can come here and make great contributions too. So